What's the worst thing Genghis Khan ever did? Killing his brother over a fish? Massacring 10 million people because of a bad trade deal? Or arranging his own burial so that hundreds died after he did? Today, we're ranking the most horrific things Genghis Khan ever did, from pretty bad to, oh my God, what the hell was that? Let's begin. Number 8. Killing his brother over a fish. Before he became the most feared warlord in history, Genghis Khan, then just a teenager named Temujin, was fighting for survival. After his father Yasuge was poisoned by a rival tribe, Temujin's entire family was cast out and left to fend for themselves on the brutal Mongolian steppe. At just 9 years old, he was out hunting and fishing to keep his mother and siblings alive. Fast forward a few years. One day, 14-year-old Temujin returns from fishing with a small catch. His older half-brother Bektar, who was already on thin ice with Temujin, grabs one of the fish and eats the whole thing himself. Temujin was furious. Now most families would have a yelling match. Maybe some fists would fly. Temujin. He shot Bektar in the back with a bow and arrow and killed him. Was it about the fish? Sure. But it was also about power. Bektar was the dominant male in the family, his mother's favorite. By eliminating him, Temujin wasn't just seeking revenge, he was sending a message. I'm in charge now. Number 7. Killing people after he died. This one might be the craziest. By the time Genghis Khan died in 1227, his empire stretched from the Pacific Ocean to the Caspian Sea, and yet he wasn't done killing people. On his deathbed, he gave one final chilling command. No one must ever know where I'm buried. So his loyal men carried his body deep into the wilderness. If anyone saw the funeral procession on its way, they were instantly executed. No questions asked. When they finally buried his body, some legends say they even diverted an entire river to cover the grave.
And then? The soldiers who buried him were all killed. Some say the executioners took their own lives after completing the mission. Others say another group of soldiers was sent to kill the first group, and then they were killed by another group. Whatever version is true, the result is the same. Genghis Khan ensured that dozens, possibly hundreds, died just to protect his grave. Even after death, he kept killing. Number 6. The most brutal trade dispute in history. Ever heard of the Khwarezmian Empire? It was a powerful state in Central Asia until it made the mistake of pissing off Genghis Khan. In 1218, he sent a peaceful caravan of 450 merchants to the city of Otrar, hoping to open trade. They came bearing gold and valuable goods. Instead of being welcomed, the governor Inalchuk accused them of being spies and executed all 450 of them. But wait, it gets worse. When Genghis Khan sent a second diplomatic team to sort things out, one of the diplomats was killed and the others were mutilated. Now, remember how he killed his brother over a fish? So imagine how he reacted to butchering an entire trade mission. He launched a full-scale invasion. Entire cities were burned to the ground. An estimated 10 million people died. The Khwarezmian Empire wiped off the map. But that's not even the worst thing he did, because any maniac with an army can kill 10 million people. But Genghis Khan didn't just kill, he made it personal. Let's go back to Otrar for a second. Remember Inalchuk, the governor who murdered Genghis Khan's trade caravan and sparked the wrath of the Mongol Empire? Well, he didn't get off easy. After the city was taken, Inalchuk was captured alive. You'd think a simple execution would suffice. But this is Genghis Khan we're talking about. First came the routine torture, but then Genghis had him dragged in front of his court and delivered a punishment so grotesque it's hard to imagine. As a twisted lesson in greed, Khan ordered molten silver to be poured into Inalchuk's eyes. Some accounts say it went into his ears. Others claim his whole face or even body was seared by the molten metal. No matter which version you believe, the message was clear. Betray Genghis, and your death will become a legend. Number 5. Using human shields. Now let's talk about his military strategy. In 1211, Genghis Khan launched his invasion into northern China, ruled by the powerful Jin dynasty. There was just one problem. These cities had massive stone walls and deadly defenses, and the Mongols weren't exactly siege warfare experts at the time. So, what did he do? He invented a horrifying tactic called karash, or, as it roughly translates, living boards. The Mongols began capturing civilians and enemy soldiers from nearby villages, not to ransom them, but to march them in front of their armies as human shields. As the Mongols advanced on fortified cities, these captives were forced to walk at the front lines. They absorbed arrows, triggered traps, and bore the brunt of boiling oil, flaming tar, and worse. And this wasn't just men. Genghis's armies used women and children too. Imagine being a Jin soldier on the city wall, staring down at someone who looked like your wife, your mother, then being ordered to shoot. Psychological warfare at its cruelest. But Genghis didn't stop there. He made the prisoners carry siege ladders, battering rams, and even push siege towers toward the city gates, knowing full well they were the first ones to die. The Mongols would often sit back and watch while their living shields were torn to pieces. For Genghis, war wasn't just about winning. It was about domination, mentally and physically. Number 4. The Siege of Zhongdu, modern-day Beijing. Fast forward a few years. By 1214, Genghis Khan had already carved a brutal path through Jin territory, and now he had his sights set on Zhongdu, the empire's capital. He sent a message to the emperor with 2 simple demands: collection over gold and tribute, submit to Mongol rule. The emperor, terrified and out of options, agreed. Genghis took the treasure and began to withdraw. But once the Mongols left, the emperor made a bold and incredibly foolish move. He fled to Kaifeng and declared a new capital, planning to rebuild his army and fight back. Big mistake. Genghis Khan turned around and came back with a vengeance. In 1215, he surrounded Zhongdu, cutting off all supply routes. Crops were trampled, fields burned, and starvation quickly took hold. The emperor sent a convoy of supplies to rescue the besieged city, but Genghis intercepted it. In full view of the starving citizens on the wall, the Mongols slaughtered the caravan and ate the food meant to save them. As weeks dragged on, the horror inside the city worsened. People turned on each other. Cannibalism began. Hope faded. Eventually, the Mongols breached the walls, and their rage was unleashed. Tens of thousands were slaughtered. No mercy, no prisoners, just the ashes of a city that dared defy the Khan. And remember, this was only number 4. When the Mongols finally broke through the gates of Zhongdu, they didn't just slaughter, they selected. Anyone with a skill deemed useful, like blacksmiths, scribes, or weavers, was spared. Everyone else not so lucky. It said that over 60,000 women chose to take their own lives rather than be captured by the Mongols. The city was set ablaze, reduced to a skeleton of ash and silence. The smell of death became so overwhelming that even the battle-hardened Mongols left, unable to stomach what they had done. Number 3. The annihilation of Merv. Now we return to Khwarezmia. By 1221, Genghis Khan had already obliterated the cities of Otrar and Samarkand. Next on the list, Merv, a thriving metropolis once known as one of the largest cities in the world. Its population is estimated to have been between 500,000 and 1 million. By now, the people of Merv had heard the tales. They knew what Genghis Khan had done to the others, but still they held out, hoping for mercy. After about a week of tension and trembling, the city surrendered. They opened their gates to the Mongols, hoping for the usual post-siege treatment: looting, a few executions, maybe enslavement, but survival for the rest. But they forgot one thing. This wasn't just conquest. This was revenge. The Mongols stormed in, and rather than honor their surrender, they rounded up every single person: men, women, children. Some sources estimate over 700,000 people were marched out to the plains. There, the executions began. Systematic, ruthless. Group by group, the people of Merv were slaughtered. Only a handful of artisans and a few women were spared for labor or other purposes. Then came the fire. Merv was set alight and wiped off the map. To ensure it could never rise again, the Mongols destroyed the city's water systems, rendering the land barren and lifeless. Today, what was once one of the greatest cities on earth is just dust in the desert. Number 2. The massacre at Nishapur. Staying in the same brutal campaign, let's talk about Nishapur. In late 1220, Genghis Khan sent his son-in-law, Tokuchar, to siege the city. Nishapur had initially surrendered, but later switched sides after hearing rumors that other cities were successfully resisting the Mongols. That betrayal cost them everything. During the siege, an archer from Nishapur struck Tokuchar with an arrow and killed him. When word reached Genghis Khan, and, more importantly, his daughter, Tokuchar's wife, the response was apocalyptic. Khan sent Tolui, the same son who had just raised Merv, to deliver a lesson. Nishapur held out for only a few days before Tolui breached the walls, and what followed was one of the bloodiest acts in Mongol history. Tolui ordered the extermination of everything living within the city, not just men and women, but children, livestock, dogs, cats. If it breathed, it died. After the slaughter, the Mongols beheaded the corpses and built massive pyramids of skulls, one for the men, another for the women and children. The blood ran through the streets so thick that the city was rendered uninhabitable for years. Nishapur was burned to the ground. Miraculously, it was later rebuilt and still exists today, in modern-day Iran. Number 1. Erasing an entire civilization. The Tanguts. Now, you may have never heard of the Tangut people, and there's a reason for that. They were erased from history. The Tanguts were a people from what's now northwestern China, and they'd built their own kingdom, Western Xia, by the 11th century. Though culturally similar to other steppe civilizations, they had once refused Genghis Khan's demands for troops during one of his campaigns. That refusal? Unforgivable. In 1226, Genghis Khan launched a campaign against the Tangut kingdom. Despite their attempts to apologize and surrender, it was too late. Genghis wasn't in the mood for apologies. He burned every city, massacred the population, and destroyed their language and records. Scholars, monks, artisans, anyone who could preserve Tangut culture was executed. By the time the campaign ended, the Tangut people no longer existed as a civilization. There was no rebuilding. There were no survivors to carry the story forward. Even their written language vanished. It wasn't just conquest, it was erasure. Western Shah, the final blood oath. As Genghis Khan neared the end of his brutal, world-altering life, he gave the Tanguts of Western Shah one final chance: submit or be destroyed. But their king? He refused. Proud, defiant, maybe foolish, Genghis was old, yes, his body broken by years of war, but his fury still burned like a wildfire. So, one last time, the aging warlord mounted his horse, raised his banners, and marched into history. The Mongol campaign began in 1226, and it was clear from the start. This wasn't conquest, it was extermination. One by one, Tangut cities vanished, burned, sacked, and erased. The Tangut king, realizing too late the storm he had summoned, reportedly died of sheer terror as Mongol forces drew closer, the screams of his people echoing in the distance. But Genghis wasn't finished.
In 1227, now gravely ill and lying on his deathbed, he didn't speak of peace. He didn't ask for forgiveness. No, instead, his final command was chilling. Erase the Tanguts. Leave nothing, not even their name. He even ordered that no one should ever speak of them again, unless, maybe, in a badass historical YouTube video like this one. The Mongols obeyed. Shortly after, a new Tangut king, desperate and out of options, arrived to surrender and offer gifts to Genghis Khan personally. He waited outside the warlord's tent for 3 days. Then the Mongols killed him too. Too little, too late. Next came the capital. The Mongols stormed in, burning libraries, temples, and royal archives. Tangut architecture was demolished, their unique script and language disappeared, and with it, their identity. The survivors? They were forcibly relocated throughout the Mongol Empire, scattered, assimilated, and forgotten. Their culture dissolved into the empires that consumed them. According to historian John Mann, this campaign may be the first recorded act of genocide in world history. Not just killing a people, but erasing their very memory.